Are we good? Oh, here we go. Oh. Ready? And 3, 2, 1. Hi, everybody. I'm Roxy.
And I'm Priska. And we are
the two Horny Ghosts! We're just two horny ghosts climbing the mountain of life,
eating Asian American stereotypes
for breakfast! Right before we started recording,
yes,
Priscilla, did you know Priscilla's an opera singer?
No, but I just taught Roxy how to find her head voice.
I didn't know my head had a voice.
Like, pretend that you're a whale and that there's a blowhole right above, like, at the top of your head, like, kind of towards the back, right here.
What kind of sounds do whales make?
Bitch, I feel like you have another chapter in your life where you're going to be an opera singer.
I'm ready for my prima donna era.
Beyonce, get ready. You have a new backup singer. You have a new feature. Like, literally, Charlotte Church could never. Charlotte Church, sit the fuck down.
Charlotte Church, hope you're well.
I love Charlotte Church. Yeah.
I mean, 12-year-old me was like
literally
fangirling her like crazy.
That was some crazy ass shit.
Yeah.
But you've got a head voice. She's literally never sung in her head voice.
Never knew that I had.
I'm just so glad to take away your virginity.
Oh my God.
Like, the little channel up here is virginity.
Like literally my choir teacher was like, you have an alto voice, so just stay within this lower register your entire life.
She just didn't know how to work with you.
I just really wanted to sound like an angel.
We contain multitudes, okay?
Thank you.
Don't let some choir teacher tell you that you couldn't do it, okay?
Thank you so much. Okay? You heal me every single day, Priscilla.
Thank you.
Happy post-eclipse!
Oh my God. Did you feel, I literally felt like it was
crazy.
Like turning off the computer and turning it back on again.
Ooh, okay, how's
like
that?
tea. I just felt like even though we only got like 49% totality, we just got a needle bit. We got like the tiniest eclipses, but you could see it in the shadows. And but I was just sitting there and like meditating and sitting with it, and I felt like, you know, sometimes your computer's just not working for whatever reason. And then they're like, turn it off and turn it on again, and you're like, that's not gonna work, but you do it and things work. Like, all of a sudden, everything's working. All the programs are opening and whatever.
Oh, my God. Thank God. Because I can't even begin to tell you how much I need that energy right now.
Right?
You know, like, I feel like I need a transformation.
Yes.
And I got to say, like, the week leading right up, I know something crazy with you happened, kind of crazy leading up to the eclipse, but I felt like my bones were going to jump out of my fucking skin.
Oh my God.
My relationships were crazy, communication was awful, and I just felt anxious and jittery and insane because you know that the moon affects the water on Earth, right? With the tide and everything.
Yeah.
We are made up of 98% water.
Yeah.
So we are also affected with every moon cycle. And so cute that it's like, you know, the sun and the moon are colliding in that way, and like everything is chill, you know, like totally normal.
Crossing paths.
Yeah. But it looked like they're gonna collide, you know.
They were making love.
Yeah, exactly.
They were making sweet, natural, nature-laden love.
Sure, you could call it that, but as an anxious girly, I'm just like, it's the end of the world.
As someone who has walked in on her parents many a time.
I know what's worse.
I don't know.
What's worse?
It's our father and our mother.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, speaking of, so you recently had a kind of a big ordeal that you went through, Priscilla.
Yes, I needed that restart from the eclipse because I was not in a good way. Like, I don't know what the fuck was happening, but life was crazy. But I think the Sunday, it was Easter Sunday. Just set the scene. Easter Sunday. I don't know if you goatees can see, but I've got little stitchies. It was Easter Sunday, and I was washing a vase in the sink. Well, first of all, it was Easter Sunday, and my mom wanted to show our house to some people because, like, she wants to maybe sell the place, and so whatever. And so I spent like 3-4 hours in the morning, like cleaning the entire place top to bottom. Like Abe and I were up, we were vacuuming, we were Swiffering, we were wiping things down, we were changing bedding, blah, blah, blah. We were doing all the stuff just to get things ready. The last thing I had to do was arrange flowers because I was like, cool. It's if I were going to be a realtor, what would I do? I would bake cookies and I would put out flowers.
Oh my God, I would want you as a realtor.
Yeah. I didn't bake cookies because it was time for that and it's too warm right now. But I was like, cool. So I was washing this vase in the sink, and it was like this thin, tall vase, and I was about to be done with it, and all of a sudden, like, it slipped out of my hands, and I think I instinctually tried to catch it with my forearms. Literally, I need another eclipse. We need another eclipse. Literally, it slipped out of my hands, and I tried to catch it instinctually, but it hit the bottom of the sink, and then it broke into the sink and basically exploded into my forearms.
Oh, exploded into your forearms.
My little forearms.
Okay, wait, hold it up. If people want to zoom in on this moment.
You don't want to see, but if you do, it's literally both.
It's crazy,
forearms.
Priscilla. I walked in. This is the first time I've seen Prisca since the incident.
Yeah.
And, when it happened to her, she texted me, the day right after it happened. Like, it was like a photo with her bandaged up, bloody up, bandaged arms. And there was some context coming in. I wasn't sure when it was going to come in.
Yeah.
I was like waiting for that paragraph explaining everything. And I was just like, what are you doing? Like, she's
happening?
Like, I'm in the ER. It's chill. I'm like, no, absolutely not.
I know. Honestly, guys, poor Abe, like, my poor husband, he ran downstairs, saw me. All I knew to do was like throw a paper towel between the two arms. Are you gonna go away?
Yeah, it's
Is it too hot?
Yeah.
She's gonna do it.
Oh.
Okay,
confident woman.
Okay, I love you.
I mean, that's like the worst producer ever. Just like leaving without explanation.
Yeah, she's gonna.
Yaya has committed to producing our season, and sometimes I just can't be sure of her commitment.
Yeah, I'm a little bit let down.
I mean, now she wants to come back.
Well, she had some important sniffing to do. I feel like the sniffing was really key to her being a good producer. This is the chaos that Yaya brings to us, and we love it. But so Abe runs downstairs, I'm in the kitchen, and I'm just like blood everywhere. The only thing I knew to do was to put a paper towel between both arms
to stop it from bleeding further. Yeah,
exactly. And like the rate of blood coming out was so intense, like I was like getting dizzy. It was, but there was still glass in the wound.
Oh God!
So even as I'm like trying to stop the blood, like every time I squeeze it together, you literally feel like the crunch of glass inside.
Did you feel? Oh my God! Were you feeling faint? Were you feeling like I'm feeling faint just hearing about this? But like, what was going through your mind at that time? Like, was it just panic? Was it like, oh, practical things, or was it like, what was going through your head during that?
I think it was like, do we need to go to the hospital?
Yeah.
Was the first thought. And like, oh my God, can we stop the bleeding? Like, is it possible to stop the bleeding?
Yeah.
And so Abe comes down and he grabs like our medical kit and he starts wrapping like this one. And it's definitely a deep gash. Like we can definitely see how deep it is, but it doesn't look that bad.
Okay.
Like, and so we wrap it up and we're like, okay. And so he like unwraps the other arm to try to wrap it up too. And literally,
I'm scared.
It was just like a gaping hole.
Oh, a gaping hole.
And we looked into it, and yes, you can see blood and everything, but then all of a sudden you can tell there's a layer of fat underneath the layer of skin. So we were seeing the subcutaneous fat, and it was just right underneath.
Oh my God, your humanity, your mortality.
Literally seeing into myself. Like it was, talk about like, inner healing, like looking into yourself, literally seeing into my body.
God.
Into my body. And in that moment, we looked at each other and we're like, we could both throw up and faint right now, but we need to get to the hospital. So Abe was like, don't think about it, and wrapped me up, and you could still feel the glass inside, jumped in the car.
You can still feel the glasses, bitch!
Yo! And so we jump in the car. Abe ran a red light. It was kind of hot.
Oh my God.
So we jump in the car. I'm trying not to bleed on everything.
Dangerously, Priscilla. Living dangerously.
Not to brag, but
yeah.
We rushed to the hospital and in the ER. Luckily, it was Easter Sunday, so it was like 11:30 on Easter, so there was like nobody there,
right?
Because everyone's in church, and we were heathens, and we didn't go to church. Oh my God, I'm so bad. But everyone there was dressed in their Sunday best, and I'm literally looking like Shrek. Like I was wearing a big green sweater, and like that. Yeah, I just looked literally like Shrek, like unkempt.
You could never.
Sweating like crazy. So I'm like sitting in the and full adrenaline rush.
Yes.
Like my entire body is just like adrenaline. So I couldn't even feel anything yet. I just knew it was bad, but I couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Of course, my mom calls me in the ER. And she's like, I'm on my way to your house. I'm 5 minutes away with everyone in my car, so you better be ready. And I'm like, Mom. I left you a text. I left you a voicemail. I tried to like let you know. I let Vicky know. Thanks, Vicky. But my mom's like, we're like outside your house. And I'm like, Mom, I cut myself. Like, I'm in the hospital. Like, I'm about to get stitches. Like, you got to like switch it up.
She would have flipped out.
She would have. Yeah. No, I know. And then so she was like, oh my God. Oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, okay, no, it's okay. We just have to reschedule this whole thing. I'm sorry.
Yes.
And so she's like, okay, well, so she rushed back home to go to a baptismal meeting. So
of course.
Baptisms, love it.
Priorities.
So luckily we go into the doctor's office. They were able to pull out all the glass. But let me tell you, like, even just getting the paper towel off of me was like, like painful. And then they pulled the glass out before they could anesthetize it. So they used forceps and like reached into it and like pulled out the glass.
I mean, is like one of those movies, but it's actually real life.
These are movies you make.
Well, I know these are movies I make, but it's weird to think that they actually happen.
I know. It was so scary. And then so I didn't know this, y'all, but like in order to anesthetize like locally for the area, they started injecting a needle straight into the wound.
No!
Straight into the wound.
No!
Yeah. So I was like ready for one, but they inject you like 10 times down the line of the wound.
Okay, wait, hold on. Hold the fuck up. How have you not passed out from sheer exhaustion and pain and panic at this point?
I think
blood loss. Like, what? You're so tiny. I don't get it.
I know.
What?
So I asked the doctor, I'm like, okay, so is this normal? Like that you're, I was like pretty calm. I was like, is this like a normal thing you guys do? Like anesthetize inside the wound? He's like, yeah, why would I waste like unbroken skin? And I was like,
why would I waste unbroken? Is he fucking psychotic?
That's the name of my next album.
Oh, is he fucking psychotic? He's like, I'm a doctor. I'm the here's an opportunity. Why not fucking take it?
But like literally, so they cleaned it out. They got all the glass out. And at first I was like, I don't, like it was so quease inducing. Like I was so queasy from everything. And then they put like the little circle paper that just makes it so all you see is the area. And then all of a sudden it was like not my body anymore. And I could, and the numbing kind of kicked in. So they were able to sew it up and I literally watched each stitch go in.
God.
It was wild. It was fucking wild. But thanks to the doctors, like we really appreciate.
This isn't even the craziest part, you guys. Like literally the next day, Priscilla's like, and I'm performing. Oh yeah. And I'm like, what? And she goes, yeah, but now I can't drive and I can't play my keyboard. But I'm performing, and I got these bandages around my arms, and it makes me look like a cutter. And
casual.
And Abe's gonna have to play music for me because I can't use my hands anymore. And then I'm like this, and then I'm like, you're gonna have to reference
what happened.
What happened.
She was dying laughing, y'all. She was literally dying.
I thought it was so funny. I was like, is this gonna be part of your stand-up bit? But it's gonna be so morbid that like people will feel. Wait, did you do that though?
I did talk about it at Tuesday Night Cafe. Shout out to Tuesday Night Cafe. But also the funniest thing was that day, like we got wrapped up, sent home with like pills, like antibiotics, pain pills.
You were drunk
and I like
singing.
literally just exhausted. And I'm laying down on the couch at home and my mom calls and first we were leaving the ER and I was like on my way home. We were leaving the hospital. I called my mom and it went straight to voicemail and all she sent was a photo of the baptismal meeting. Like, sorry, can't talk. Sorry, can't talk. I'll put the screenshot like right over here.
Your mom is so crazy.
She's crazy. So she calls me after the baptismal meeting and she's like, oh my God, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. Like, I think I'm going to nap. And she's like, well, like, yes. She's like, well, you cleaned the house, didn't you? And I was like, yes. And she was like, what if we just came over?
Oh my God.
So she brought the people over. We still showed the house.
Oh my God.
I got up, Abe and I, for like 10 minutes, like still like tidied up anything we didn't get to. You know what I mean? Because like literally blood was on the floor. But sweetly, my dad and Vicky came to just check on me. My mom came with her.
I was telling Priscilla, this is so funny. Like, this is better than a sitcom. Like, it is just so crazy how all of this happened within the span of like 48 hours.
Pastor's kid, you know?
It's just so hilarious. It's like, I can't. I went to the hospital. I'm in the ER. I'm patched up. I got stitches. You still got to show the house.
You still got to show the house. Still got to show the house. Still got to do it.
And it's like, can't cancel the performance because I prepped too much and promised, like at this point, I can't drop out at the last minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I'm not going to do it.
How do I make it work?
And like poor Abe, honestly, like he has been taking care of all of my wounds. He's been cooking and cleaning. He jumped in with me at Tuesday Night Cafe to play guitar. Like he has been literally doing everything. So I'm very fortunate. Can you imagine if he was still on tour? What would I do? I literally what would I do?
Use your feet.
Yeah, I would have to I have to move in with my mom or something, and she would like guilt me every time she had to put my dressings on.
Oh dear God!
Kidding, Mom. I love you. You'd be great.
Mom.
You're a great
love
caregiver.
You, Mommy. You're so freaking great. Well, Priscilla, I'm glad to still see you in one piece. That's all I can say.
Thank you.
For the most part.
So all that to say, thank God for the eclipse.
yeah. Universe, no more shenanigans for the rest of the year, please.
Yeah.
No more shenanigans.
We needed a hard restart.
A hard restart.
Well, okay, but when the eclipse happened, how did you feel? Did you feel something energetically shift? Like, what was your vibes? What was going on?
Well, I don't know if it's a placebo effect, but I have been feeling kind of crazy all year.
Yeah.
Like, this year, I don't even remember what we said for the last episode.
Just mental beats.
But just, like, literally, like, everything I try to plan for, I try to, like, prep in advance, and I try to, just take care of myself in one certain way, and then life just gives you these curveballs, like the fucking vase and all that shit, and you just gotta learn how to pivot, right? You just gotta keep pivoting. But I'm like, something did shift, I think, after the eclipse, where I do feel a lot lighter now.
Nice.
And I feel a little bit transformative. Something to do a lot with the topic, today is about, like, fear and, like, a lot of what fearful things that I had, like taxes, for example. Like, I always was afraid of taxes, but I decided to do them early this year.
Nice.
And then, like, turns out I get a return.
What?
And I'm like, this is the first year I've ever gotten a return.
Wait, do you get it from Canada as well, or just?
I'm waiting for my Canadian one, but like I got American. Because now I teach part-time. I was like, wait a second. Oh yeah, I get a return. So I'm like, wait, so like all this financial stuff has been like alleviated a little bit.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. So there has been definitely positives like in the past couple of days. But I also want to share something that happened this year that I don't think I shared with Goatees quite yet. Is I know that I went on a crochet kick, like sort of last year that I spoke about.
It was like August or something, right?
Yeah,
it was like
August.
recent.
Yeah. It was almost been 1 year, but I did launch my own little brand.
Y'all, you ready? Drum roll, Paris.
It's called Studio Roxy.
You can click this right here to go check out all of the things.
You can check it out. And yeah, I have an Instagram. I have an online shop. I just drop whenever I feel like it, honestly. But
they're custom pieces. Every piece is different.
All custom pieces, all one-of-a-kind pieces.
Yes.
And it's a big place where I get to explore my artistry.
Yeah.
And, I make crazy hats and I make crazy things. And, now I've been making handbags. Like, that's like a new thing. So I just want to do a small little plug. Thank you.
Yes.
And Prisca's has also modeled a lot of my pieces, and she looks fucking great in them.
Well, because everything looks good. Everything, like, it's very flattering silhouettes. It's beautiful colors. It's very like cozy chic, It
is cozy chic. And
it's like cottagecore.
Some strange thing that happened with that as well is once I started doing it, I know that I'm like super late on this, you guys, but like, as a person who never grew up with a lot of money, it's like you fed into fast fashion, right?
Right, yes.
And then after I started crocheting, something has changed within me.
Something is not the same.
No, but it's true. It's like you can't go back for some reason.
Yeah.
Like I can't not. I don't buy retail anymore.
Yeah.
I just thrift and make my own shit now.
Right. Because you value the construction of clothes, you value the quality, you value the materials. Like, we had this entire conversation about, like, that Italian wool that you bought, that you made, like, this small t-shirt.
Yeah.
Or vest, I guess. And you were like, literally, this cost $120 in materials.
Yes.
I don't know how much to sell it for because I can't sell it for, like, $60, $70 because that would be less than I paid for just the materials.
And then you think about, like, all the kids and, like, all the people, all the women that get abused through, like, that industry.
Oh, my God.
And it's just something... Going through that and appreciating the handiwork that comes into making, like, ethical clothing.
Yeah.
I'm just not the same. So maybe this also has to do with the transformation as well. I'm excited to go ahead and dive right into this episode today because I just feel like it's such a juicy fucking ass topic for you and I to talk about because it's been a while, since it's been a while since last season, since Prisca and able to, like, dive into topics like this. So this episode is called Perceptions of Fear, Taxes, Death, and Everything in Between.
And things that go bump in the night.
And things that go bump in the night, you
Scary.
know? And so I wanted to ask Priscilla, what do you think fear is?
Ooh, what is fear? I feel that it is a survival, evolutionary survival response.
Right.
Where you were supposed to be scared of predators at night. You were supposed to be scared of getting separated from, you know, your village, your crew, your group. To avoid death. It was just kind of hardwired in us to avoid dying too casually.
That is exactly right.
Is it?
And even dismantling that even further is that there's actually 3 types of fear.
Okay, talk to me.
Okay.
Talk to me. Let us know. Let the people know. What are the 3 types of fear?
So, number 1 is rational fear, right?
Okay.
So rational fear occurs where there is a real imminent threat. So
Okay.
there's like a bear in front of you.
Yeah.
Right? So that is a rational fear.
I would be pretty I'd be
I'd be pretty freaked out because
Yeah.
there is that, you know, that is a threat to your survivalhood.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Number 2 is primal fear. Primal
Okay.
fear is defined as an innate fear that has been programmed into our brains, something that's a little bit more subconscious.
Okay.
Right? And something that we're just like instinctively, intuitively picking up on.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll go more into that.
Okay.
So
I'm curious about that. Yeah.
that's more intuitive. So for example, it's like you have a bad feeling walking down the road as a woman.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like not present in front of you. Like,
Yeah.
for example, you're on a dark road with a man.
Right. It's like a gut feeling.
Yes.
But in
Primal.
regards to fear. Got
Right,
it. Okay.
because it's like that fight or flight, right? That
Yes.
instinct, right? Well, it's more instinctual,
I
right?
see. Yes. Understood.
Number 3,
Uh-huh.
irrational fear. Irrational fears are the ones that don't make logical sense and can vary greatly from person to person.
Oh, interesting.
So what's crazy,
Is that more phobias?
it is what you create mentally in your mind. So the thing
Copy.
is, like us being sort of the apex predators of our society at
Yeah.
this point in terms of, or biology
Right.
at this point, right? Here, psychological fear, there are certain things that trigger fear in most of us, but we can learn
Yeah.
to be afraid of almost anything.
Oh no, that's what the news does, right? The news, like, it's all about fear. It's all about, you know, oh my God, scaries. Oh my God, these people are coming to take over. Oh my gosh, like the news is good at making us scared of everything, right? Yeah.
Because it's like, I think what's interesting is that as we advance as a society,
Yeah.
it's like fear is like, oh, real or imagined.
Right.
But I also feel that because there is no imminent rational fear for us at this point,
Right.
like aliens taking over or like, you know,
Yeah.
another species or whatever that's
Right.
like a danger to us, like we start creating more imaginary
Oh,
fears
because I was
with the
gonna
rise of technology.
ask, like, us being perpetually online, I could totally see, like, you know, I mean, the stereotypical Gen Z kid
Yeah.
with a literal bear in front of them, and they're like, oh my God, so mid. Like, I've seen worse. Like, oh my God. I mean, gat. Like, you know.
Oh my,
like,
what
you
is
know what I'm
that?
saying? It's like someone with a curvy ass. I just learned it this week.
Is that an acronym?
And, no, it's supposed to be, well, it's like a shortened term for like goddamn, which is like, I guess, like a very East Coast, like
Oh.
slang. I don't know,
Gyat?
whatever. Gyat, like Gyatt.
Gyat.
I don't know.
Gyat.
Don't shoot.
don't please
The
don't come for
messenger?
us. Just don't come for us.
But like, can you
please.
see a Gen Z kid just being like, God damn, look at that ass on that bear. Like, almost like all ironic
Oh
and
my
stuff.
God, that's
because,
crazy.
like, yeah, you're right. There is no imminent fear. The only time we experience things that are scary, like actually scary, are within certain confines, you know? And so certain safety things are put in place. So there's not a lot of things that we actively need to be afraid of.
When you were younger,
Yeah.
what did your parents instill in you to be fearful of?
The devil.
And how does the devil represent himself?
I guess I think it's twofold. I think it was disappointing God, letting God down.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
But that could be anything,
Yeah,
right?
literally policed in literally everything, and so scared of everything, and I mean, I was so sheltered, and part of the way they did that was to make everything outside of what was known and what was religious and what was core to our family. Everything else was scary. Everything else was terrifying. You could be led into temptation. The devil could, lead you to a path that would cause you danger. God could be disappointed in you for being jealous. God could be disappointed, like you would sin. Sin was the thing that was so scary.
Oh
Committing a sin,
shit.
yeah. Having a thought, it could be within your own mind that I thought, oh my God, Roxy's earrings are really cool, and like, is that jealousy? Is that coveting your earrings? You know what I mean? Because that's like one of the 10 Commandments. Like,
What?
yeah, even like hating like my sister in a moment, just being like, like fuck her, she's stupid in my own head. I don't even have to say it out loud, but that would be like considered a sin. It would almost be like murdering. It's like as bad to say something. It's as bad to curse someone as it is to actually kill someone in the eyes of the Lord or whatever was kind of the teaching.
How did you function as a child around that fear then?
I was胆子很小. I was like scared of everything. And I was already afraid of heights. And I was like scared. I was shy. I didn't like other people. Like, I was very
But you
afraid.
also had that pressure of being the 两家女儿,
Yes.
right? Like the prodigal daughter of like her family, because you're
having
the
to be
oldest.
perfect.
You had to be perfect, and you also had
Yeah.
to be good with the community.
Yeah.
So it's like you say that you're like afraid of everything, but at the same time there's like this giant social expectation of you, like
Yeah.
as a child.
And so I guess, yeah, I think in addition to fearing, or I guess kind of like under similar umbrella of being afraid of God and letting him down, I was afraid of like, I wanted to be a perfect Christian so that I could make my parents happy.
What is the perfect Christian?
I mean, there's no such thing, I guess.
Right.
I feel that, yeah, as a pastor's daughter and the eldest daughter in a Asian family, I just always felt this pressure to never disappoint, never let down, and always be on top of everything. And when you're policed in all these like micro ways, it's like difficult to feel autonomy and freedom and the ability to make your own decisions.
So when did you become self-aware that these fears were crippling you or making you more passive, and how did you move through that?
I think that taking psych and sociology courses in college was actually a really big indicator. Because I was reading about in sociology, I think we were talking about different religions.
Yeah.
And some religions.
Those classes are so great, by the way. They
Honestly,
like open up your mind to like the whole world.
Because I think it's easy when you're young to be a little bit narcissistic and to think
For
that you're
sure.
special, and everyone is special for sure. Like everyone deserves that participation trophy, like totally. But I also feel that knowing that you aren't that special and what the larger trends are and larger patterns are is super useful in just like understanding that you are normal for the most part. You're
You bring
just
up
fucking
such
normal.
a good point. I want to linger on this a
Yes.
little bit, because you say once you stop centering yourself in that way,
Yeah.
like I think it's natural for all of us to think I'm different, I'm strange. No one gets it.
Yeah,
you
no one
know?
gets it,
And
yeah.
I think that's normal because you're just trying to figure out who you are.
Yeah.
When you're growing up. But in a way, like when you decenter yourself, you free yourself.
Yes,
It becomes really freeing because you're just like, wait a second, I'm not alone in this,
Right. It's kind of like stage fright. I think the way I got, and it still rears its ugly head from time to time, but
Yeah.
for the most part, I gotten over stage fright because,
You used to have stage fright?
oh, I used to have crippling stage fright. And if I don't manage my adrenaline, it can still kind of hit,
How does it show up?
like shaky hands, which sucks as a pianist, like kind of just shaky voice. And it's never been crippling to the point where I've seen other people, they can't even continue. And I feel really awful for people, but it would like tighten up my throat. It would just make me freeze on stage for a little bit. Like it would cause me a lot of anxiety, But the way I got over it was essentially decentering myself and realizing that as an audience member, like when I'm in the audience, all I care about if I go pay to see a show is that they do neutral. As long as they do neutral and it was a show, it doesn't have to blow my socks off for me to be perfectly happy with the show. Now, if they go above and beyond that, that's excellent. But I'm just here to have the social expectation of seeing someone do, and you're rooting for whoever it is on stage.
Yeah.
Except for comedy. I feel like comedy is a little bit of a different beast.
Comedy has those stakes. It's like you go to fucking laugh.
Yeah.
Right? And I think like as a musical performer, if your
Yeah.
audience is not familiar with the type of music you do,
Right.
it's like they're just there to receive whatever you choose to
That's
give
it.
them that night.
Exactly. and it's a relationship, and everyone. I feel that the myth of stage fright that causes so much fear is that everyone's rooting against you, but in reality, I don't want to pay money to root against somebody. I'm paying money just to like
See,
enjoy something.
I didn't even think that. Like, I didn't even know that. It's
Right.
so weird. It's like, oh, this is the perception that I believed and that I was taught.
Right.
You know? But then, like, I'm like, I never thought that. And
Yeah.
I never heard of that.
Did you
It's so
see?
crazy. Like, even just us best friends, like, you know.
Totally different views
Yeah.
on stage fright itself, right?
I used to have, because I am a violin player, but I perform only for myself and occasionally Instagram stories.
Well,
you know?
now you do, but you used to play on stages
I
when you were
used to
younger.
play on stage, and my God, that stage fright was awful.
Oh my God.
Awful. Like I could never. And I think that to this day, like that's what makes me a little scared of being in front of the camera. Like,
Yeah.
and people are like, Roxy, you're so talented and funny, and I was like, sure, but I feel like it's because I have residuals of that stage fright that has stayed with me like ever since I was a 12-year-old kid.
And it makes you kind of self-conscious in a way that you don't want to invite too often, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and it's like I think with classical music, and I think with just the whole of like ballet and violin, where the training is really strict,
intensive,
and you have to be perfect. What the fuck is
interesting?
Perfect?
Yeah,
it's like intonation, your phrasing, your scales, your posture. You can't play ugly. You can't play too close to the bridge. You can't play right. And
there's almost no such thing as a perfect score for those classical violin tests or recitals or whatever. There's no such thing as
even
a perfect
Joshua
score.
Bell has critiqued that his performance could have been. I'm like,
Jesus.
What the fuck, And so I just remember that feeling of like, and I'm so glad I don't get butterflies anymore.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
But that super intense, like I'm gonna throw up.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna pass out.
Yeah.
And I'm sweating. And I'm shaking.
Yes.
And I don't feel good.
No. And it's hard to get out of it. But like, so when you were a kid, what were you afraid of? Like, obviously being on stage was something that would trigger something, but what were other things you were afraid of?
Gosh. Honestly, it's like our parents taught us like what you should be afraid of. And for me, it's like not as severe as your upbringing, because I'm like in a religious household. It definitely goes beyond just like the parent unit. It's like also God.
Sure.
Right. But like for me, it's I don't know why, but I always felt like I was gonna die young. Like I don't know if you've ever had that fear.
100%.
Like I thought I wasn't gonna make it past 20.
Wow.
It was crazy. And like me being an only child, like not having any siblings, and then like thinking that my parents were gonna die, and then I'm gonna be alone, and then I'm just gonna be alone.
Oh, that's interesting. So it was really like a fear of abandonment in some way.
Yeah, I just felt like no one understood me, which, to be fair, aside from the whole ego thing, like I did live in 3 countries, so not 3 countries, but I'm a third culture kid. But like seriously, it was just like no one understands me. I can't speak the language well. I can't do anything well, and I'm like, I'm just gonna die, and nobody would care. Like it was these really devastating thoughts, and like we talked about in previous seasons, like how bad some of the mental health issues did get, like in middle school and high school, and like your self-image, that it led to all these like really depressive thoughts.
Oof.
And that just creates like this free state of like you feeling that like, oh my God, this is so dark, you guys. I swear I'm not like this anymore. But at that time, I just thought no one even cares if I'm here or not. That's a real fear. That's just like a real fear of like not being seen, not feeling cool enough. But then I think really meditating on it and like really, just dismantling that and like reflecting even deeper is I felt that all love was conditional.
Whoa.
So,
and was it your mom telling you this?
I think it was a mixture of things that she would say, things that my dad would say, things that my friends would say, and I would twist it in my mind. To form this story. About how nobody cared about me.
Oh,
And it was really hard, like making friends again and again and again, and like there was nobody who knew you your entire life. And so in a way I felt like I was impostering this life. Like I just thought I'm just like Yin Xi, just like acting my way through it.
Just like kind of observing what's happening around you and regurgitating it in some way, but it's not authentic really to who you were.
No, absolutely not. So it was it's like I think things started to change for me in college.
Yeah.
You know, for you it was those social classes,
Yes.
but for me it was like I joined a dance team,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
MCIA. And what was wild was, you know, I was still putting on this like mask of like, everyone loves me and Roxy can make all their friends and like be included in every group and
Yes.
blah, 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 you know, and like,
I am here to say, because it's difficult for the person to say it, that she was the most popular person I've ever met in all the schools I've been to. It was crazy. It was kind of crazy.
it was crazy
It was a
because
little crazy.
I did impossible things that was not normal.
Yeah.
And I remembered that like, the great thing about MCIA
Mm-hmm.
was that I started experimenting with style very
Oh, yeah.
carefully. Like I like, you know, I started experimenting with the way I dressed,
Yeah.
and then I started
Your
doing
hair.
my hair, and then I
Yes.
did like awkward choreography that was like to classical music, and people were like, "What the fuck?"
It was sick.
But then they loved it. They were
Yeah.
just like, "Oh, that's Roxy. Oh, that's who she is." And there wasn't even like a discussion like, "Oh God, like what the fuck was that?" You know?
You were fully yourself, and everyone was like, "We're fucking here for it." I mean,
Yeah.
that must have been so freeing.
It was so liberating. So I like, look, I have this whole thing, you know, there are some people that say, you just gotta believe in yourself and you can
Sure.
do it all on your own. And
Sure.
there may be people who can do that, but I just think it's so hard if you don't have a community or like a group of friends
Yeah.
that are pushing you forward.
Yeah. I think self-acceptance is so important, and we talk about it all the time, but a lot of times, especially coming out of an angsty teen phase, like
It feels hollow sometimes.
it feels really hot. Like, I do think there is a place for your community accepting you.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes needs to happen for you to find self-acceptance, and then
Yeah.
for you to then use that self-acceptance to like face your fears.
Right.
You know,
right,
you can't really just think yourself into accepting yourself.
No, it's
That's
so
not fair.
hard. It's
Yeah.
so hard. And so I'm always just like, how do you ask for support from other people? You know,
Yeah.
like as you're going through this change or
Yeah.
as we're going through this difficult time, because it may not be so obvious to so many people.
No.
You know?
I think so many things are connected to fear that even though we're talking about all these things surrounding it, I can see all the like spokes leading back to the center, which
Yeah.
is fear. And I do feel that one of the things that helped me, because I was locked in to this very religious life. In fact, most days I am completely shocked that I was able to leave, like understanding how deeply entrenched I was in it and reared in it and formed in it. But I do think early college, when I had my first friends who accepted me and loved me for who I was and didn't mind how weird I was, and we were all just fucking nerdy and weird, and they weren't Christian. And that was super important and powerful for me.
And then you realize that the weirder you let yourself be, the more that people gravitated towards
Yeah.
you. Because I remembered, like, I'm sure I mean, this is why we're best friends, because, like, we went through this together, but it's like, Priska and I often projected what we thought people wanted of us.
Yes.
And so we were always constantly striving to, like, make and retain connections,
Yeah.
you know, and, like, split ourselves up into, like, 50 million pieces to
Right.
make it all work. But
then you'd be exhausted.
yeah.
And then you wouldn't get the results you wanted because you weren't being 100% genuine. And I think
Totally.
like people can sense it. People have this innate ability to suss out that's the fear type number 2, I guess. But people have this innate ability to suss out something that's inauthentic. So even though we were spinning like literally like Tasmanian devils, we were literally spinning around, and we would sit at the end of the day, we're like exhausted.
Yeah.
But it wasn't having the effect that we wanted.
Yes.
You
And
know?
I'm just like, why am I not figuring this out? Like,
Yeah.
why is it so easy for other people and
Yeah.
not for me?
And then the lie that comes is that I'm not worth it.
Yes.
I'm not worthy. Something's wrong with me.
That's
Yeah.
what happens. That's what the fucking irrational fear comes in, because
Yeah.
your brain starts to tell you a story about you.
Yeah.
Because it's not working for you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Exactly.
But then you start becoming what you say authentic.
Yeah.
Right? And then something crazy starts happening. You're like, wait a second, people actually like me more now?
For me?
For me? And then they're encouraging the crazy to
Yes.
even go further.
I don't gotta try?
No, the Delulu can go even further. The unhinged mania
Here
could
we
go
go.
even further.
Okay, let me tie my hair up, because here we go,
I mean,
you know?
honestly, if you look at us, you're just like, wow, Priska and Roxy have crazy chemistry together. I'm like, yeah, you think that we just saw each other out on a dating app? I'm like, no.
Oh, but I mean, we could.
We could, but it'll be hard to read, right? But it's literally, we were in the same room together,
Yeah.
and then, like, of course, course, we gravitated. Well, she loved me first, and then
Okay. No, it's true. I was gonna say Roxy thought I was a total dweeb, but
there's
a
something
lovable
charming.
dweeb.
There's something so charming about her, and it ended up growing, and
It's a love.
It's a love story.
When you're on like a 24-hour film set together,
Yeah.
you end up falling for each other.
I mean,
There's like nothing you can do about it.
Obviously, you just have to do that. Gosh, but I have a question for you because like this is something that I get a lot from like younger people.
Yeah.
Is with hearing how both of our stories have gone. It's once we start letting go and being truly authentic, we start developing real things that sort of squash like our previous like notions of fear.
Yeah.
Or previous inner narratives about ourselves.
Yes.
What if someone were to say to you, but I don't know what my authentic self is. Like, I don't know how to do that. Like, what would you say to that?
I don't know that I have any advice. I don't know that I would say anything to them. I think all I would say is the journey inward is just as important as anything you're doing externally. And I hope that you endeavor on that. I hope that you explore that, because I think within us, it's kind of like these multi-layered rainforests, and there's so much to explore, and there's so much to see, and there's so much life, and there's so much like vibrancy, and you would be cutting yourself off from the bounty within you by not exploring that. Is how I feel. Yeah.
And to take that first step into exploration is to take that first step of action, which is the first step to overcoming that fear.
Right. Yes. And like we said, I think that the reason why I don't have advice is I think a lot of times that journey might include your education, it might include your partner, it might include your friends, it might include your parents, it might include healing from things that you didn't want to face. Like, I don't think that journey, that first step or whatever is so black and white. It doesn't exist within like a multiple choice kind of questionnaire,
Totally not.
But at the same time, if you don't know your authentic self, I do think at the end of the day, other factors can help embolden you or even help you take those first few steps. But at the end of the day, that's going to be a journey that you have to go on. There's a leg of that journey you have to go on your own.
Yeah, it's not as simple as just like point A to point B.
Yeah.
It's going to point A to point B with a million different crossroads with little different jagged, corners, all of that. So we're going to take a little break.
Okay.
Once we come back, I want to investigate your fears now and how they compare to before, and also some discussion topics on how to manage that fear. We'll be right back. Talking about sex is such a taboo thing, and it creates more oppression.
Yeah.
And it oppresses women, it oppresses men.
Hi, Goatees. Thanks for tuning in. Last season, we did an episode all about virginity. If you haven't heard it yet, we think it's well worth a listen.
We have slightly different experiences.
For sure.
Because you're coming from a place where your friends are like, yeah, we fucked under the bleachers.
Right.
You haven't?
Yes.
I literally would study Cosmo magazines and read them end to end and go on jokes.com and learn dirty jokes because I wanted to like be in the know.
We talk about the patriarchal structures around virginity and dive into some pretty personal stuff. Things get really intimate.
And I was like, fuck, I'm like single and I don't know what it's like to kiss a boy, or like I don't know any of these things. I had to find a way to like rush my timeline.
Did you ever feel like people assumed that you would be more sexually experienced?
Yes, like my breasts have developed into this since I was 13. I've always been very voluptuous.
Yeah.
I have to be honest, I wanted to lose my virginity, but at the same time, I was scared of the pain.
We also talk about double standards when it comes to virginity and how that can be damaging as well.
And in fact, like, when they hit a certain age, they have older men mentors being like, let me just get you a girl so that you can get it out of the way. Which is so sad because like that fumbling and discovery and confusion and all that is intimacy building.
It's our most listened to episode to date, so head to twohornygoats.com/episode/virginity to listen now, or find the episode on Spotify and iTunes.
our mothers only had one person their whole life. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So
Only one person has entered the chamber.
exactly.
Of
And
secrets.
so that's their story, and that's what they know. So obviously that's what they think that will
Bring happiness, fulfillment, joy, completion.
Okay, now back to the show.
Hey everybody, we're back. Welcome back to Two Horny.
Did you miss us? It was literally 30 seconds. Like, what do you do without us?
You know, it's so special.
I just want to call out real quick. We are now on YouTube. If you're looking at us on video, this is where we're at. But if you're listening on the podcast and you want some extra hangy hangs with Priska and Roxy, we put the basically unedited entire episode onto YouTube every week, every Monday. So yeah, come look at us.
Come look at us. Have
Come
tea
peek
with us.
inside our cage.
Oh, we love being
We
here
love
with you.
it. So just search Two Horny Goats on YouTube and you can find us. We're gonna.
It's Two Horny Goats. We're gonna be here. We're gonna be here. Always on the internet.
Anyway.
Okay, coming back.
Yes.
Let's talk about some current fears, whether they are rational, primal, or irrational now.
Okay.
In your mid to late 30s.
Ooh, I'm very curious to hear what yours are. I think that parents passing away is a big one, but then also my husband passing away.
Oh shit.
Having seen people lose spouses pretty young, it is definitely one of my biggest fears because I do think it's kind of crazy that you decide to be with a partner and then you build your entire lives around this one fallible, mortal person who at any point in time, if they are gone, the entire structure of your life becomes like dismantled. And so I think that anxiety is it looms pretty large. I'm pretty afraid of getting sick. I don't want to suffer. And I think that now we're getting to an age where people are exhibiting more illnesses, like whether it be cancer or even, perimenopause, like, our bodies are kind of falling apart. People are getting knee surgeries and back surgeries, et cetera, hernias, all this wear and tear and just living long enough to see your body start to decay. That does give me a lot of anxiety. And I think dying penniless is a little bit nerve-wracking, especially as an artist. I had a conversation with my financial planner yesterday and she was like, okay, so what's the plan for retirement? And we were like, I don't know. Like, it's very hard to set aside funds when you're living paycheck to paycheck, And so, yeah, that's for me. How
That
about
is
you?
so real. Mine were all of those. You know,
Okay.
I think like a few years ago, like in my 20s, it would have been about taxes for some reason because I would think
Yeah.
like for some reason,
Ooh,
I don't know,
scary.
with Asian American like culture, it's like it's instilled the fear of God within us. If we
Yeah.
file our taxes wrong, that somehow we're gonna get locked up by
Audited?
locked up by the
I don't
want to
get audited,
You know, and I'm
yeah.
just like I think I was always afraid of doing things wrong.
Yeah.
And now I don't think like that anymore. I'm
Right.
just like, I hire this person to do my taxes. I'm protected by my accountant. And
You have
I'm
a
like,
team.
I have
Yeah.
a team. I'm like, and they figure it out for me. And I used to have so much shame. Shame goes along with fear
Yes.
with many things. Like, oh, I'm coming off stupid or I'm coming off like, I don't know. And I'm like, wait,
What?
so many people know.
Why am I so scared?
Everyone doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm curious because I have one in mind. Are there phobias that have come up for you that you didn't have when you were younger? Because I think when we were younger, yes, we have all these like social fears or fear of the unknown and fear of all this. But at the same time,
The
we're
ocean.
too stupid we don't know what we don't know yet.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of living kind of like do.
Yeah.
And now that we get older and we've
Yeah.
seen some shit,
Yeah.
what are you scared of now? Like, what are some phobias?
Oh gosh, I'm afraid of the ocean now.
Fuck.
So weird. So weird. I never was afraid of the ocean when I was younger.
Like going, like
Yes.
the beach?
Yeah, no, going in. I mean, yeah, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I could put my feet in there and I could be on the shallow end.
'Kay.
I cannot go further than that.
Really?
Yeah,
When did that start? What was the kind
I
of like?
don't know. It's very recent. It is very
Whoa!
recent.
Yeah, I've never heard of this.
Yeah, I used to go scuba diving when I was like,
Did
you know,
you?
yeah,
I didn't know that.
Like when I was like a lot younger.
Oh
yeah.
my God.
And now I'm terrified.
So would you go in a boat? Would you? I guess let's
You
take
have
it in
to
stages.
you really have to convince me. I've never been on a cruise.
You wouldn't go on a cruise?
I don't know if I would go on a cruise.
Because you're afraid of falling into the water.
I'm afraid of the water
Okay.
very deeply. I'm afraid of what's down there.
But a pool is fine.
Yes.
but it's specifically deep
Ocean.
waters. Got it.
The ocean.
Yeah.
And I love the ocean. Like,
Yeah.
you know, as a kid, like I always needed to be in a body of water.
Right.
Now I can't.
So do you like? Are you still able to enjoy the view of water?
Yes.
Okay, it's not like foreboding to a point where you don't want to see
It's
it.
like
Okay.
if I go in there, I will die.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that
yeah.
is a phobia.
That is fair.
I'm afraid. I used to be a lot more adventurous.
Yeah.
I am now not.
More risk averse.
Yes, more risk averse. I do not want to go camping or not in like the Sierra Nevadas. Like I don't want to do like a trekking thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to go somewhere where there's like no connection.
Yeah.
Like I'm afraid
Cheryl
of something
Strayed
happening.
and her book kind of ruined it for everybody. Wild. Her book Wild.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And Reese Witherspoon.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm
kind of
afraid.
ruined camping for women everywhere.
I'm just
kidding.
scared. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
no, it's scary.
I think when I was a lot brazen when I was younger, and
Yeah.
now all I crave is safety. You know.
So you dislike situations in which you don't have control over your environment.
Yes, and I think that in a way, I'm just like, wow, I'm really grieving that part of myself that used to take more risks,
Yeah.
leaps of faith, you know, because in a way, in order to get past your fear, you have to take a leap of
Yeah,
faith. Like
right.
you have to take that step forward. But at this point in my life,
Yeah.
like where time has moved so quickly,
Yeah.
and now I'm almost 40,
Yeah.
like I'm really just managing like what is worth
Yes.
it for me to like take that leap towards something
Yeah.
and versus safety.
So question for you then.
Yeah.
Would you categorize your fear as rational or irrational?
Rational.
Okay.
100% rational.
So adding to your body of knowledge has created very rational fears in your life now.
Yes.
Fair.
Yes. And it's so crazy because you were sharing like your fears
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, wow, death is really a theme in our lives. You know, it's like anticipatory grief.
Yes.
Is
Oh
like
my God.
like I feel like every day I wake up with anticipatory grief.
100%. And I think that it ages you. I think that
Yes.
that stress, like when it's imminent and it feels visceral and entirely within the realm of possibility. Because I
And-
think when you're young, you take your parents for granted, you take friends for granted, and then you start losing people like grandparents, aunts, like pretty close friends, and then you understand how close that grief is to you.
And which category of fear would you put that in?
Maybe 1 and 2, because it is rational. Like you are going to lose everybody.
But sometimes when we live in it all the time,
Yeah.
it becomes irrational, right?
That's true.
Like I would say that my mom, like, for example, all of our moms do this.
Yeah.
Because you know we're only getting more neurotic
Yeah.
as we get older too. I think it's like trying to find that balance, but it's like you know if she reads something about this virus that
Yeah.
has taken over like the food in Taiwan,
Oh,
and
right.
some people have died. She's like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
must not eat that much takeout because what if
this
like
one restaurant in a mall?
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard about that
could
food court
kill
story.
you?
Yeah.
Could kill you.
Which, yeah, it's irrational when it is applied incorrectly, even
Yeah.
though the fear itself is rational. It's
Yes.
based on a rational fear.
Yes.
It is applied irrationally.
But I think it blooms into irrational fear.
Yeah.
Like if you let that
Right.
control your life.
Yes. Okay, well here's an interesting one. I guess fear in terms of, and again, a lot of my fears I think relate back to religiosity.
Yes.
So I think my fears have really changed over time, and that'll be interesting to kind of explore as well. But I think that one of the biggest things that would drive fear is my mom kind of being like, I got a sense from God that this wouldn't be good. God told me that this is, you know what I mean, that you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that. And once, I mean, that's just kind of like an ace. Like, what are you gonna say? What are you gonna say to that? You
But
know?
is that one of the fears or is that manipulation? Like,
Well, I think it creates, I think like what I said earlier is I lost the ability to trust myself.
yeah.
So mine 2 fears, you know, all the
Yeah.
ones that are gut based,
Yeah.
were completely rewritten by religion. And less my mom manipulating me and instead walking into a way of living that was like, well, I am going to be afraid of everything until God kind of like says that that's okay. But when do you actually hear a voice from God saying that things are going to be okay? It's
Have you
like
so-
almost rare.
Did you used to hear from God?
I don't know. I've heard things, but I
Yeah.
don't know what was me and what was God and what. So it's like a very frustrating metric because, and it makes it frustrating to communicate with my family now because literally we moved to Walnut because God was like, apparently God told my dad that he should start a church in the east of LA. So it's like all these things in my life were uprooted, wanting to follow this voice from God. But I think it very much so aligns with a lot of the way that I came to be afraid of things because you just don't want to take a wrong step because you might not be in God's favor.
And now, do you hear your voice stronger than ever? Whose voice do you hear now?
Yeah, I think I've found more of a neutrality. Like I now I think the way that it's shifted is I would say while I was in church, I was depressed.
Yeah.
But when I left the church, my depression kind of lifted a lot, but my anxiety skyrocketed. So you kind of trade
That
certain energies for another. You know what I'm saying?
that makes a lot of sense,
Yeah.
actually, because it's like you took away this huge part of yourself.
Yes.
And you can't, it's not like people are just like, yeah, I heard that. And
Yeah.
then you move forward with life completely confident.
done.
Like, that's not true. Like,
No.
it's going to feel shaky for a little bit, you know?
100%. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
okay, I got some quick questions
Okay,
for you
okay.
to sort of get even deeper.
Yes.
We
Let's
like
go
to do
deeper.
here. Have you ever taken a leap of faith in something and have come to regret it?
Probably, but I know that psychologically our brains are wired so that when you take a risk like even if things don't turn out the way that maybe from a third party perspective should or
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
or maybe it's not the best outcome,
Yeah.
our brains are wired to kind of like protect you from that. So it's
Oh,
yeah.
interesting.
Well, it's kind of like I was listening to something on like happiness,
Yeah.
like the psychology of happiness,
Right.
and so I think that some scientists or psychologists were interviewing people like the original drummer for the Beatles.
Yes.
And they are kind of like, well, surely this guy must be fucking miserable because he missed out on all of this. But when they went and talked to him, he was like, I mean, yeah, I understand that I missed out on this opportunity, but his psychology was so interesting because he was perfectly happy and content with his life.
We want to stand by the choices we made. We want to honor the choices that we made, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting. The reason why I point this out is
Mhm.
because it is true. There is a psychology behind happiness. And people don't want to walk through life saying like, yeah, I admit I regret this. It was the worst mistake of my life.
Sure.
Like, we don't want to do that, right?
Yeah.
Our brains protect us
Yes.
by being behind us and saying, you made the right choice.
Shifting the narrative.
Absolutely. But then if you were to counter that fearful side of you
Yeah.
from your younger self, that was just like, oh, like, I don't want to do this because I think I'm not good enough. Or
Yeah.
I'm self-sabotaging but then like you do it. And even though it's never going to be what you imagine,
Yes.
it's like, I want to be an actor. Well, you're not going to become Angelina Jolie in the
Yeah.
span of a day. You're going to have to fucking waitress. You're going to have
Yeah.
to sleep on someone's couch. You're going to have to struggle for
Yeah.
a long time.
Right.
And it's like, I'm afraid of that.
Yeah.
Right. And then there are those that are like, well, let me take a step towards that. And yeah, they struggled.
Yes.
But my gosh, the people they met.
Yeah.
My gosh, what they went through together. My gosh.
The lessons learned.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
so at the end of it, it's
Yeah.
like fear is to protect us. Our happiness paradigm will also be there to protect us. So therefore, what are we truly afraid of? Except when it's irrational fear, when something's stupid. Like the bear's going to eat you if you go and antagonize
a rational
it, you know?
fear. Yeah.
But if
yeah.
it's something that's like made to be imaginary,
yeah,
like, I don't know. I think it's such an interesting discussion of like
it's true.
whether or not you take that action.
Yeah. What do you think?
Me?
Yeah.
About like if I regretted anything?
No, just like what do you think there really is to be afraid of?
I don't think there is anything to be afraid of.
Even aside from rational fears? Are you just talking about irrational
Just
fears?
irrational fears. I think just irrational fears. I think that rational fears are there to protect us from physical harm. I think that rational fears are there to, like, someone comes in with a gun, obviously. Like, you must trust your instincts to protect you and be careful and more risk averse. But sometimes irrational fears, you know, where I created like this whole fucking, like, I'm still afraid of death. I'm afraid of dying poor. I'm afraid of like,
Yeah.
I think right now I'm afraid of not having impact. You know, I think like doing Two Horny Goats is like so rewarding for me because I know that whoever's listening or whoever chooses to be a part of our little space, you know, there is influence here. It's
Yeah.
a dialogue, it's a conversation. And I'm like, okay, is that enough? You
Yeah.
know, like, am I going to die happy if I were to die tomorrow?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think, like, as I get older, this also goes in line with our previous conversation of, you know, aging past the zeitgeist and whether or not we're relevant anymore. But I think nowadays it's like anticipatory grief will always exist within us. You and I are always going to have anxiety that we need to manage.
Yep.
But I think that as long as I could live intentionally with like, here are my friends that I love, that I will be there until our deaths, one way or the other,
Yeah.
right? And that I'm leaving an impact and I have those who support me. What is there to be afraid of? What
Right.
is there? Like, even if I get a disease,
Yeah.
but I have those who love me, what is there to be afraid of?
Yeah, I guess I hear what you're saying. I almost
The
feel
apocalypse?
Well, I feel that there are still
President
things
Trump.
to be afraid of.
President Trump.
But I think it's just I think for me it's like acceptance. It's building a relationship with that fear instead of
For sure.
let it, because I'm always still going to be afraid of things like and I think it's tough because it's kind of like your mom, right? Like it's like you have this rational fear that can turn irrational really easily.
Yes.
And so I think we have a lot of rational fears that can just turn into irrational fears very, very
yes.
quickly.
It's like a fucking landslide if you allow it to be.
Exactly. And so I think that I'm learning, you know, in the process to have a relationship with that fear, to find a sort of like neutrality to approach it.
To be friends with it.
More so, yes, I think I don't know if I need to be friends with her. It's like that girl that you're like, I know you, but we don't need to be that tight. But yeah, I think it's just forming a relationship, like like understanding the innate nature of certain things, understanding your physical reaction to certain things.
Yes.
Trying to neutralize some of those irrational fears, not with shame and not with guilt, but with rational thoughts. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like,
It's like changing the language and how you react to these fearful thoughts,
yes.
right? Like
Yeah.
immediately it's like, oh my God, you're going to fail at this. This is going to be horrible,
Yeah.
right? Oh no, they don't want you as a director, right? And then I'm like, okay, well, first of all, I'm like, is that true?
Yeah.
You know, like, is that absolutely F-A-C-T?
Yes.
You know, and
yes.
it's like, no, I don't know that. That's just something that I created in my head.
Right. And I think that we're older now. We have certain fears that we didn't have when we were younger. But I do think that we have a deeper knowledge of our own propensities.
Yes.
And how we might overreact or how we might spiral.
Right.
So a lot of times Roxy will call me. She's like, I know I'm spiraling right now, but I just need to get it out.
Yeah.
But and I appreciate that because it's like, it comes with the awareness that if it's in my body, it's going to do more damage. So I need to get it out.
Yes.
And also I know myself. I know where I'm at in this cycle and I'm here and there's nothing I can necessarily do about it, but I can catch myself before it gets too out of hand, you know?
Yeah, it's like, again, it's like not fearing that fear person who is the friend inside of your body.
Yes.
But also it's like maybe not to be friends with her, but that she's a part of your tool belt and how to live life, you know?
100%.
Yeah, it's like, okay, it's like, you know, back when, you know, we were younger, I would just let my emotions, I would repress them so much. And then one day, like dynamite, like a fucking volcano, it all comes spilling out. And then I just remembered, I'm so glad I don't do this anymore.
Yeah.
But like the guffawing, like loss of control, snotty ass, like I think I'm gonna die type of like tear. Like I haven't had
100%.
that in years. And I think it's because now if those feelings come up, I'm like, let's just let it ride through us. Like I'm not going to resist you.
No.
You know, I'm going to let you flow through me.
Yes. I think it's like recognizing colors, you know, you're like, I see it. It's blue. It feels big.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know the texture of it. It feels velvety. It feels prickly. It feels whatever it is. We recognize it now.
Yes.
And so I think that's why maybe we're not afraid of that many fewer things, but we understand how to manage it. And that's like a huge get, right?
That is wisdom right there,
That's
bitches.
a huge get.
That is a wisdom right there.
Go.
Oh God. Okay. Well, Priscilla, thank you so much for
Thank you
like
for
sharing so much. And like I'm just in awe every time that we get to talk about something as vulnerable as this.
Yeah.
You know, and like getting to be inside of your head, like especially with that religious upbringing that still like floors me every time we get to talk about it.
Yes.
Like how much of a grip it has over you.
I think like one of my favorite things too is watching your face be like, what?
I know.
And I'm just like, no, that's normal, right? You know,
No, I know. And I'm just like, right here, I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, oh my God, like that is insidious.
Yeah.
You know, like for you to live like that, like as a kid.
Right. And it's so interesting for me to hear like truly the depths of the darkness you were experiencing, especially as a teen.
Yeah.
And how much of like you are such a light. You were then, but now you are such a light in the community, in your friends' lives, and you know, in your family's lives. And it is hard to imagine that darkness was so pervasive, but I think it's important to talk about because you couldn't have this lightness without the darkness, you know?
Neither could you.
Yeah.
Every day we're having growth here on Two Horny Goats. And like if you guys you know have any thoughts and want to share your stories about your fear journey,
Yes.
like please write to us hello@twohornygoats.com. You could share a voice note with us
Yes.
that with your permission we could also share and read on our podcast too.
Oh my God, we would literally love that.
We would literally
love that.
Oh my God, I hear something. Do you hear that? Going from 0 to 180. As always.
Go from hyper vulnerable to downright silly goose.
We're on an emotional roller coaster, yes.
You can call me Silly Scylla.
Silly Scylla.
That was my nickname growing up.
Really?
Yeah,
Silly Scylla?
Scylla.
Oh my gosh, should I call you that for
Yeah.
our next episode? Silly Scylla?
I know.
That's so weird. That's so weird.
It's weird. Okay.
It like makes me look at you completely differently. Silly
Okay.
Scylla.
I was a very giggly kid.
I could see that.
I couldn't stifle a giggle, and now I'm like, you know.
Really? I think when we're together, you're still Silly Scylla.
I'm still silly. No, I'm silly Scylla. Who am I kidding?
Oh wait, we're back.
Yeah, oh, hi.
Oh yeah, the jingle happened like 15 seconds ago.
So Roxy and I have a shared first unsolicited pick. What is it, bitch?
Cowboy Carter! Beyonce is queen. Beyonce is queen.
Beyonce for fucking president.
I mean, okay, be honest. What were your thoughts when she announced that she was going to be releasing a country album?
I think with the first single and and hearing about it, I was a little sus.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
same.
I was a little sus, and like I think it was stupid of me, but at the time it was kind of like it felt I didn't understand.
Yes.
You know, and I think there were some, I don't know. I'm very like distant with a lot of the pop happenings. But I felt like people were kind of comparing and contrasting, which is stupid now thinking about like Taylor Swift on tour versus Beyonce's tour and stuff. And so I just kind of felt, I don't know, it felt a little chaotic. How did you feel initially?
Same. I wasn't sure because, I mean, Destiny's Child and then all of her R&B albums and, all of her pop albums.
Yeah.
Like, suddenly I'm like, wait, we're going to the South now?
Right.
Like, I'd never... Okay, look, she's from Houston in Louisiana. Like, obviously, that's part of her backstory, but it was never spoken about as much.
At length.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's such a private person. Like,
Yeah.
we didn't know that part of herself. So I was like, oh my God, is she trying to just take over another genre space?
Well, egg on our face. Egg on our face.
Egg on our face, because
on our face.
I will admit right the fuck now, I am gonna coin Cowboy Carter as one of the truly iconic masterpiece albums of this decade.
Yes,
like,
yeah.
Fucking
Concept
what
album.
the fuck? What the fuck?
Yeah, what the fuck? What the fuck? It plays like a movie. It literally plays like a movie.
Like everything, like all the interludes in between. Like I felt like I was in a spaghetti western, and then suddenly I'm like in an urban, like hip hop rap battle, like with country music. Willie Nelson's on it. You know,
it's wild.
It's so fucking
wild.
like
and that Miley song too.
Oh my God, so good.
And fucking Dolly fucking Parton. Dolly.
Oh my
Are
God.
you kidding me? And it reminds me of like rap concept albums, but then also with the storytelling and the musical stylings of country, and then also reclaiming the roots of country being
Black music.
black music.
Absolutely.
And totally co-opted and into this very racist kind of, siloed industry.
It's so layered. It had all of this messaging underneath it.
Yeah.
It comes from a very authentic background.
Yes.
You know, she has everything is intentional.
Right.
You know, in her choices
Yeah.
that she's made as a music artist. And the fact that it's become such a like an experimental breeding ground for
Yeah.
her that I feel like, okay, my opinion, I still feel that there's a part of Beyonce that she still hasn't fully let loose yet.
Fair.
Like this is probably the
This is
first
a little,
step.
yeah. It's
You
the
know?
tippy tip of an iceberg.
Because like Renaissance, I love, but Renaissance
Yeah.
is like Vogue music, you
Yeah.
know, very much like I feel like, okay, she's sort of diverging away from like her pop and R&B
Yeah.
identity. Well, very cool.
Right.
But now this.
Yeah, this
I don't even have the words to describe what Cowboy Carter is. Like it's all of what you described, but
Yeah.
like more, you know?
I feel like Renaissance was like cool VHS art.
Very cool. Yeah.
Like very
totally,
cool
totally.
video art.
Yes.
Like she could have made a whole career off of that.
Right.
But this is a masterpiece. Like this is narrative.
And it's like
it's not documentary.
what she's
Yeah.
writing about, like all her song lyrics, like it's really personal shit.
Yeah,
you know?
And I can only imagine, people who are mothers listening to this,
Yeah.
like, because I think her perspective as a mother, as a woman, as a Black woman in America, it's that narrative and that perspective is so clear. And you're right, she's so private. She doesn't really do interviews anymore. She doesn't really speak publicly other than putting out artist statements, which was
Yes.
really interesting.
Yes.
So getting to really see how she's been responding and reacting to kind of the state of America in the last 4 or 5 years is pretty spectacular.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, when American Requiem first started playing,
Yeah.
like her whole critique on like what America is
Oh
right
my
now,
goodness.
I just started crying,
Yeah.
dude. Like I was just like that as the opener to her album.
Yeah.
You know, that says so much like through that music.
Right.
Can we just say that Beyonce's like a fucking musical genius?
Oh
like,
yeah, 100%. Her whole team, I don't know who's doing what, but that team is fucking with the visuals, with the soundscapes, with the lyricism,
Yeah.
with the features,
Yeah.
with the all of these things, and she was able to feature amazing background vocalists
Yeah.
from around the country,
Yeah.
specifically from the South, and giving these women and men opportunities that they
Yeah.
wouldn't have had. Like
Yeah.
all of that is rising tides and all that. It's really cool.
What is your favorite song on the album?
I love the opening song
Yeah.
because I just feel like it sets it's kind of like the Savannah, like it's like literally like it's iconic.
Yeah.
It's an opener. I love the new Jolene, like
Yes.
can't lie. And then as far as like catchy, like
Yeah.
the Levi Jean song.
Oh yeah, the Levi Jean.
It's just so catchy. How about you? What's your
is that
fave?
the Yaya song? Wait, no.
No, the Yaya one I kept thinking about.
I
Yaya.
kept thinking about Yaya. Yeah.
She doesn't even care.
I know.
She literally doesn't care.
I was like
that a
playing it for-
worldwide superstar.
I
wrote
mean,
a
literally,
song about
Yaya's
her.
like half deaf at this point, so I'm just listening it for her sake.
Yes, but yeah, I mean, Yaya's like that's probably one of the best
It's
songs
so
for sure.
so good.
Yeah.
And then Daughter is incredible.
Daughter, so
Oh,
beautiful,
so emotionally wrought,
Yes.
and like the Italian opera. Like,
Yeah.
which Priska taught me how to use my head voice today. Really interesting Easter egg about that.
'Kay.
Caro mio bien is an aria from the Baroque period.
Okay.
Which takes place after
The Civil War?
Renaissance.
Oh, after Renaissance. Okay.
So I'm curious to see what her next album is.
Yeah.
All Italian arias.
Yes.
Just kidding. I don't think so. But
I mean, Charlotte Church could be a feature.
hey,
to bring
Charlotte
it
Church,
back.
call
Well,
us.
yeah.
We're big fans.
Charlotte, let's go. Today, this is our only unsolicited pick because Beyonce deserves the entire marquee.
I literally feel icky if I were to mention another.
Like, is there anybody else who
I
exists?
honestly feel like Cowboy Carter deserves its own, like,
100%.
Yeah, like
100%.
it takes center stage today.
Well, Beyonce, call us. We love you.
yeah, we love you. We love you. Want to
We
get
can
on
do
our
it
show? Well, you guys, thank you so much, Priska, for letting me lead us through the perception of fear
Loved
today.
it.
I love this episode so much.
It's
and
so sweet.
Yeah.
We can't wait to see y'all next week.
Yeah, we'll be back next week, guys.
So have a horny week.
Our lovely goatees.
And remember,
Stay horny! That was good.
That was great.
That was great.
That was such a good topic.
Oh, I loved it. I loved
really
it.
liked
I loved it. I loved it. I was like, this is so cool.
It was so cute. Like it was so honest.